Greetings, Toffees. Welcome back to another episode of the Blue Frontier as Everton fall 1-0 to Arsenal at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. What we learned was that Arsenal are good. They don't really need VAR's help. They are, in fact, the best defensive team in the Premier League, and Everton struggling for depth a little bit. Not the best lineup that they put forth. Before we get into dissecting the match, just a reminder that if you enjoy the show, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice, or if you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave us a comment on the video. Helps others find the show. Otherwise, you can find all of the links to our social media and Discord in the description of this episode, plus our merch. So check that out for sure. With that, we get into the summary quote of the day from our listeners. We go to Kiernan. We go to Kieran Jennings at Kieran J 1979 from X, who said, "Didn't have the quality to unlock the door or retain the ball against the best defense in the league. Defended pretty well, but gave away a daft goal." That being, of course, the handball on Jacob Bryan that led to Arsenal's only goal on the day. Ryan, I'll hand it off to you. Let's get into our discussion points for this match.
And I think that's a pretty good summary, James. So it's worth maybe poking and prodding a little bit to figure out what the heck happened. And we knew there were going to be some issues going into this one. So the talking points tried to revolve around those. I think the number one talking point was how the injuries, Dewsbury-Hall, plus the misses due to the African Cup of Nations, hurt us. How would it hurt us? How would we line up? We saw the answer with Dwight McNeil out on the right side. To me, I think this is a pretty obvious one. There were only two successful dribbles from Everton the entire match, and that was Mykolenko and James Garner. Even David Raya had a successful dribble. I know. Saka had 4 just by himself. Yeah. I think there was some idea that Jack could carry the load if we fed him the ball, and the answer to that was unequivocally no. However, in his defense, Saliba and Timber, I mean, that's just a tough combination. And Timber, when he has the freedom to go and really try and lock someone down, and it wasn't always him, but was very successful. And it's kind of funny, James, looking at Wyscout and the numbers, Saliba and Timber combined were like 0 of 9, I think, in offensive duels. But in defensive duels, Saliba was 8 of 9, Timber was 2 of 3. I mean, Jack was 2 of 5 in offensive duels. 4 of his total duels were versus Timber. So they were battling at times, and a lot of the effect was Jack was pushed deeper sometimes to try and retrieve the ball, defending a lot, and, well, it just didn't work out. I mean, James, and you could see, the Wyscout report on attacks by flanks and danger level. I think it's pretty revealing.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, if you watch the match, you'd know that Jack Grealish struggled a little bit, and Ryan, you just rattled off some numbers, and Everton didn't create much as a team in general, but almost everything we did came down the right-hand side. Virtually nothing from the left and very little from the middle. I think you look at the changes that Moyes was forced to make. We know that Dewsbury-Hall, as you mentioned, kind of suffered that hamstring injury, looking like he might be out until February, and then you're missing Ndiaye. Really limits the balance of this Everton attack. You would think a lot would go to Grealish, but instead, Arsenal figured out that if you want to shut down Jack Grealish and there isn't really a threat on the opposite side, it's pretty one note and pretty easy to shut down.
Yeah, and look, on the defensive end, we had some strong contributions to make up for the loss of Ghana. Tim definitely, when given the freedom, can tackle like a maniac. We saw 7 tackles from him, 2 interceptions, 3 recoveries, 8 for 10 in duels, and that was all great, but no passing or progression really to speak of. And that's really what Arsenal does to you. They pack you in. They make it difficult to break out with any sort of authority. And while I would argue that Arsenal were not the most dangerous down the middle, even though that's where most of their attacks happened, fed a lot of times from the right with the build-up coming on the left, if you could follow that at home. I think there was... I don't think we should be surprised that we could not break teams down, and that really goes to talking point 2.
I think the real question for Everton over the next month or so is going to be how you break teams down without 2 of your most creative players this season in Ndiaye and Dewsbury-Hall. And Arsenal probably aren't the be-all, end-all if you're trying to judge Everton's ability to create without these players. But first example in a really good test because they are such a great team. And the result we got after watching Everton was that we're probably going to struggle a little bit. Maybe not quite as much as we did today, which was a ton. I mean, 0 XG created in the first half. Barely even had a shot, only 2 touches in the box. In the second half, a little bit more productive from Everton, but you can maybe chalk that up to the fact that we were trailing by 1 and needed to push for a goal. And even with that, still only 5 shots, 1 on target. And the intensity off the ball as well, only 1 foul in the second half for Everton. So not combative enough, even trying to win the ball back. A little bit frustrating, but they're a tough team to catch. I mean, they're so good in possession. They move it around so well, kind of chasing shadows for Everton for large stretches.
Yeah, and I think that's a message on that one, too. Or at least the question that remains, is this just due to Arsenal being the best defensive team, debatably, in Europe? Or are we just that inept? I think in certain circumstances, I think we know Charlie will be somewhat creative. I think Beto and Barry have not finished well this year, but there's at least a little bit of a threat there. But not enough to make up for the losses, clearly. We'll talk about Dwight in a little more detail, but set pieces, I think, was the other big key coming in. You know, Arsenal are very dangerous on them, and it really wasn't a massive factor. Arsenal ran a similar corner routine as Newcastle did, and probably missed their first one, should have done better with it, but there weren't a lot of numbers. The thing that I was hoping to see, at least, that, okay, say Dwight were to struggle a little bit on that side, because I think the jury's still out if he can even play on the right side. I really thought when we acquired him that he would be good for that, getting on his left, threatening goal, but in crowded spaces, it's in the same way as why he can't succeed at the 10. He's just too one-footed. They were all over him. But he did have 2 set pieces. He had a corner and a free kick that wasn't too far out, and none of those were great, unfortunately. And that was it. Like, no one really did a whole lot off set pieces. It was kind of the only creation we had, but nothing dangerous. And you would have thought that worked into our favor. You know what I mean, James? Like, part of you might think, well, at least we could threaten on a set piece. And that's true, but it never really happened. So it just became a non-factor, I think.
Yeah, you do hope that Everton, and it's still kind of a question for me of, with the amount of size that we have, the physicality, why we aren't able to be a little bit more threatening on set pieces. Now, the deliveries today were not great, so if you can't have good deliveries, you're not going to set any of those guys up for success. But nevertheless, even kind of utilizing the long throws, which I think we'll talk about a little bit later, like just getting virtually nothing out of them, which is going to be, I think, an important piece for us without these guys who can create from open play.
Yeah, and again, this is a mature team, a team that's been under the same manager for a long time, the same staff, same core group of players, really. I mean, their big addition was Gyokeres, who I don't think was the greatest fit for this team, but does give them a big, fast body that's direct and can score to some extent. Today, too, they weren't missing too much. I mean, Gabriel is definitely a miss. There's no doubt about it, but they have lots of people that they can sub in, and a lot of flexibility with fullbacks and kind of play center back as well. Eze didn't play. He's obviously a massive player. I mean, can you imagine us not being able to play someone like that? Kai Havertz didn't play. Ben White's been injured. Didn't really matter, though. Still, it's hard to look at that lineup and not think that core is still really, really strong in the back. And in particular, the ability of their center backs to pass the ball, and Rice and Zubimendi to pass the ball and distribute as well, just gives them a certain element of control that other teams really can dream of.
We know that they are basically, I mean, they're setting the pace right now in the Premier League for a reason, and they have they've dedicated 6 years now, I think, to the day as of yesterday that Mikel Arteta took charge of Arsenal, and it's been building over the years, just setting up this style of play and building the personnel to execute it, and no surprises there, even with a couple key pieces missing that you mentioned, Ryan.
And spending a lot. I mean,
of course, as any team that wants to win the Premier League does, but they've spent also well in a lot of areas and gotten players that fit their system. And then on the Everton side of the coin, just kind of the changes forced by absences. You see Charlie Alcaraz in at the 10, Barry retains his starting spot, Dwight McNeil on the right, and otherwise a pretty unchanged lineup. We did see Merlin come to the bench, which he would later make a substitute appearance, as we know. But no Tyler Dibbling. I know people maybe were hoping, I would say irrationally, that he would get the start, since it really looked like Dwight was being tapped up for this role in the absence of Ndiaye over the last few weeks, and we, of course, see him come in.
I think there's some logic behind that to suggest that Dwight's defensive effort and acumen could be useful in this type of situation, but I don't think we saw that at all. I also think in this type of situation, him playing deeper, there's no ability to carry the ball if he can't put it on his left foot and his right hip and use the sidelines. So I think we see that maybe that logic was a little flawed. But let's get into a little bit in terms of how Arsenal played, because I don't think Arsenal played that well in the middle and the final thirds. However, Everton did not turn them over high very often at all. And I think, in particular, their buildup is still very difficult to deal with. In the second half, they really pushed Calafiori up higher. Rice would drift over, and then you just look, they were basically building in a back three at times with three in front. Timber would eventually release and get forward too, but they only had one high turnover the whole match. You know what I mean? And they're going right at Dwight and Jake so much of the time. And, you know, just combining with those players, it makes it really difficult. Dwight just looks so slow. I know he's never been fast, but the problem is when you break free, even if they didn't play very well in the middle third or final third, they're still going to get the ball to Odegaard and Saka a couple times, you know. And Odegaard led all players with 4 chances created. Not a surprise, but I think what's really interesting, James, here, if you kind of look at the pass maps, more importantly, there were 4 guys that touched the ball over 90 times in this match. And they were all kind of almost in a box at times. I mean, just look at these numbers. All of these guys are exceptional on the ball for their position.
Yeah, it's really a middle of the field kind of nightmare for anyone trying to apply pressure or dispossess or do any of the things that would lead to transition moments for Everton today. As Declan Rice was 87 for 97 with 114 touches. Hincapi, 106 touches, only misplaced 6 passes. Zubimendi, 92 touches, 94% pass accuracy.
On the ball.
Saliba, again, 91
awesome
and 90%. So all guys who, and you know, Everton were at times looking to push a little bit higher, but they just were passing rings around us and made it totally ineffective.
Yeah, no chance. And Declan Rice is just so darn good,
He's
man.
so good, man.
Tim took him out once, and that was a long time coming in the match. But,
yeah.
I mean, he had 2 chances with .23 XA, 10 passes in the final third, and he was 7 for 9 in duels overall. I mean, the guy's just a really, really good footballer. And, you know, these guys have better players at almost every position than we have. And only a couple positions are they really close, and I think that's what's tough. And so if you look at the numbers, Arsenal did theoretically start most of their attacks from the left side at 44%, but really their triggers guys were eventually in the final third, Saka and Odegaard. I think what's disappointing is if you're spending that much time going at Dwight McNeil and Jake, I mean, Dwight still, his defensive numbers here, James, are legitimately dreadful. I mean, 0 tackles, 0 interceptions, dribbled past once, 0 for 4 in duels. I mean, yeah, he had 4 recoveries and a clearance. That's his 1 defensive contribution. But, I mean, come on, man. You don't win a single duel tackle or interception. And you know what's even crazier? Do you have how many forward passes Dwight had, James?
I mean, there had to have been at least one.
No, there was not. Not according to Opta. So he technically had negative progression today, like negative number. He was very accurate in his 5 or 6 backward passes, though.
It's
I don't know what to. Well,
it's rough.
Okay, but maybe, crosses are forward passes, so we know he was 0 for them, too. 0 for 4 in crosses. Only had 22 touches. That was as many as Tierno Barry, except for the fact that you count as when you hit the ball in the set piece. So it was much worse. I mean, I don't I know. The numbers are so bad, you look at them, and I was trashing Dwight a lot during the game because it was frustrating to watch him, mostly on defense, and he's not fleet of foot, but honestly, he looks much slower than I ever recall him being so, and
yeah,
could be lack of familiarity with the position, but maybe he's not ever really truly recovered from his injuries. I don't know, James. You're curious your thought on this one. He was obviously ineffective. What frustrated me is anytime anyone got the ball low, he just couldn't make himself even open or available.
Yeah, I think the lack of familiarity with the position affects a lot of aspects of his play. Like those angles that he's used to being able to take the touch to the touchline, like just not there for him when his right foot is just not available.
It's got to be a factor.
But the athleticism thing is really head scratching to me because he's never been a great athlete, but he just looks nowhere near the pace of a Premier League match when he comes on. And it's not just this match; it's most of his sub appearances as well. So I do wonder if behind the scenes there's something a little more long-term going on with him. But it's frustrating because we know that there are other options. We know that Moyes has been kind of setting this up for weeks now and has seen the same things that we as fans have seen, and still trudges forward with the decision. Just really tough, and honestly went about as well as I expected it to with Dwight on the right.
I know, it's so sad, isn't it, though?
I feel for the guy. I do.
Well, I do, but we just didn't see the swivel hips or whatever the heck did Ashley Barnes nickname him?
Yeah, something like that.
But anyway, we saw none of that today, that's for sure.
No.
I wanted to look at the ball loss trend because I think that's something that Jake was almost leading the league at one point and started to come back and not do that as much, taking a little better care of the ball. And last match it was not good, and I think this match it wasn't good either. I expect center forwards in isolation to lose the ball a lot, and Kiernan did today, but a few too many guys that were a little above their average the last 5 matches. I guess, though, James, looking at this, like Barry had 17 his last 5. He's averaged almost a little over 14. Jake's been down. He's down to almost 11, but he had 16 today. Tark had a few more than average, but I thought he was actually pretty good on the ball. I don't know. Is this just Arsenal, James?
I think you have to chalk it up a little bit to it just being Arsenal. I think in regard to Jake O'Brien, again, Dwight McNeil having a stinker kind of right in front of him, who might be one of his more common outlets to get the ball. We talked about Dwight not really being able to get into spaces to receive it. I think that plays a role, but we know that Jake's just not going to be really your guy for ball retention when he's playing at right back at the very least. And Charlie, look, I don't know if you hit his numbers, 11 today. He's right about his average in the last 5 matches. I don't really read too much into that, but I don't think Charlie had his best game today by any stretch. I mean, there were some very sloppy and careless giveaways mixed in with those 11 total.
Yeah, we'll get to his numbers a little bit later. I agree with that, although I think they were magnified in the way they happened. There were just some really egregious moments. I don't know if it was collectively as bad as we think, but they stood out, right? You can't ignore those things.
Moments when you think you might actually be building towards something, which happened so infrequently for Everton today, and then it's just a sloppy giveaway to cap it off. It's frustrating.
You can always trust that he's going to push things. But,
sure.
Sometimes it's not always for the best, and he's not the most controlled. Barry had 24 duels today, too. 13 were against Saliba, and he did not fare well. He lost most of them. Saliba was 5 for 7 in ground duels versus Barry. Beto and Saliba had 8 duels that they split, though. Beto won all his ground battles, if you can believe it or not. But I don't know what that means. Credit to Beto. When he came on, he was definitely fired up. He was dedicated to fighting very hard and pressing. And I think if you look at how the second half played out with only 1 foul the entire second half, I think it's disappointing, and Beto, if anything, at least came off the bench and gave a little bit of a spark, even if we really never got over the hump. Pretty amazing to intro this match, though, the dedication from the 1878s.
Yeah, really, the tifo that was raised in the whole pre-match display at Hill Dickinson was remarkable, and full credit to the 1878s and the club as well, who per the 1878s helped kind of bridge the gap on the financing of the tifo, which is not a cheap endeavor to say the least. So credit to everyone, all the volunteers who were out setting the placards to go in behind, everything that was done pre-match, because it was a really beautiful display. I wish that the team had responded with as beautiful a performance, but hopefully not the last we see of these types of things pre-match, because it really does do a lot to set the atmosphere. And I think you saw the crowd were very much up for this from the first whistle.
Yeah, and it probably helped, to be honest. I think in some other days with our relatively poor personnel, this team probably smacks us around a bit, but at least we hung in there and we were resilient. But I think this team does have a lot of character, and you got to give them credit for that, even if they lack talent in key areas. James, getting in the first half, though, it's hard to ignore that Everton really created very little. I mean, 35% possession. We already talked about the only 2 touches in the box and the 0 shots. I mean, Barry had that little flick on that drew a corner. Some people maybe called that a shot. I don't know if it was. That being said, Arsenal didn't either. They had the penalty, and that was really their only shot on target. So, yes, they were at 88% pass completion, but they didn't create a ton either. And actually, I would argue Everton had some of the earliest chances in this match.
They did, yeah. And I think, honestly, as far as first halves go against a team who are looking to go back into first place in the table, you would probably take this besides the air. Like, you take a virtual stalemate. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, in the 12th minute, we had a corner and a long throw combo that led to another corner. That was not really super exciting, but again, sort of something threatening. Barry had the debatable shot. And then Arsenal didn't have their first shot until almost 20 minutes into the match. Zubimendi launches one over. It's not a dangerous shot. Gyokeres had a flick-on header that was a little bit tricky, but again, nothing really for Jordan Pickford to do, certainly. And then in the 21st minute, again, it's Arsenal. They're threatening. Saka rinses Mykolenko and Jack. He finds Timber. Gyokeres dives into the net. This one was weird. They were saying this might be a penalty. Jake barely touched him. I mean, this is a joke. I think the announcer said that it's worth a shout when they saw the initial replay.
Right.
There's nothing here. This is crazy.
It should have been a yellow. He completely dove. He was dropping even before the contact, and Gyokeres is a big guy. It was frankly embarrassing. Now, look, I'm sure he's a little desperate. He only has 3 goals from open play all year after a €65 million transfer, and I get it. Congratulations on your 39 goals from Sporting. Only 27 from open play, I might add. But yeah, no, this isn't worth a shout at all. I mean, the announcers were utterly ridiculous, but you expect nothing less. And then the match just totally changed, really, in the 23rd. And, this is a corner routine that they ran where the header probably should have been not finished or anything, but a better chance on target. And I didn't even notice it in real time until they showed it on the back end. They showed the replay, and Jake goes up almost like he's a volleyball blocker. And Gyokeres buries the penalty, just absolutely smokes it. But I still don't know what he was doing. Like, I can understand the left arm going up where you're trying, you see a runner coming at you, right? You're in a standstill. You leap up, you try and reach up your arm to maybe get over his shoulder and get yourself up higher. That makes sense. But the right hand, I don't know. What I think probably happened is that Hincape was on him for a second there, and I think he thought he had to break through the guy and was trying to be dramatic and maybe draw something. And when he released his arms, there was nothing there to stop it. I'm guessing here a little bit, but yeah. It's just unlucky and just kind of insane. I don't know if I've ever seen him do that in my entire life, and frankly, he doesn't have to. He's 6'6".
Well, that's what it is, a little unlucky, but it's also just a really weird choice to make in that moment. Yeah, you have to use your arms to get elevation on the jump, but the way that they're just it truly looks like he's going to set the ball. The way both of his hands are kind of up over his head didn't make a lot of sense to me. But as you say, it kind of passed by the radar as you're watching it. You don't really notice it, and then within 2 replays, you're like, oh. I know there's a lot of debate about what is a penalty, and we'll get to that very shortly. But this is about as clear-cut a handball. There's not much less natural position for your hands to be in.
No, it was like the Dele Alli one that they didn't call that one.
Oh, that's right.
A couple years ago.
Of course.
Just arm straight in the air, just hits the ball. It's unbelievable how arbitrary this crap is. But anyway, yeah, it was a blatant penalty. I mean, it's fine. It is what it is. It's just very unfortunate. It was, I wouldn't say it's against the run of play, but there was no real massive creation.
Yeah.
Even after that, Arsenal didn't really threaten too much. Some strange officiating moments when Tim got pulled down in the 30 seconds by Odegaard and no yellow. I don't know what to say to that. It's like that's the definition of yellow. I mean, he's gone. You can't.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for doing it. I would too. I mean, we were showing that we couldn't generate anything. I'm not going to let Everton finally get a free run. I don't understand that at all. Tark gets one for leaving one on Gyokeres a bit, but for a big guy, man, he was flopping all over the place, wasn't he?
Yeah, the flopping continues to just be a week-over-week embarrassment, and this was a firm challenge by Tarkowski, but come on. I mean, it's not that crazy, and it's not even that he gets a yellow for it, it's that the other stuff that gets let go that should also be a yellow, to me.
I agree. And then it's in the 43rd, they did have a legitimate chance where they play the ball in behind. This is stuff that Michael Keane does that I just can't handle, James. That he just stands there. He's not aware that there's a runner, a center forward cutting in front of the center channel. Tark does a very good job staying with him and preventing him from getting a great shot on net. And then there was this weird Everton players were flipping out that Calafiori was down when he clearly smacked his head on the turf. Everton get to the half. Only that one real chance is the penalty. I mean, only 4 fouls total was really odd. Something's got to give at this point. A little surprised that there were no subs made at half, James, because, look, I agree Arsenal weren't creating a whole lot, but there's clearly not a very functioning front four at this point.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm that surprised. I think the game was, again, as I said a few minutes ago.
Well, change approach first. I mean, it's personnel sometimes are a byproduct of how you set up. I mean,
you got to set up a little differently, but also if you take away the penalty, I think you're relatively happy with a 0-0 at the half. You don't want to disrupt the defense too much. I think the attack definitely needed some work, and we had enough evidence at that point to say. But I think probably the way it factors into Moyes' calculations is you can tweak get more out of the existing personnel rather than yanking someone before we really even get any kind of momentum going.
And look, Everton came out okay. I mean, they came out with a little bit of fire.
Yeah.
The crowd was behind them. There was that long throw. Charlie had a pretty good header, but these aren't like massive threats. And once it was past those, I mean, not soon after this, I mean, Saka had a huge chance that was cleared off the line by Tarkowski very
Good
well.
clear. Good block.
Right, it was very good. It was a great 1-2. They just went around Mikalenko like he was standing still. And Saka showed great composure in the box to get rid of this thing, and Tark did well. And then there was this strange sequence of play in the next 5 minutes that I think is definitely worth some of our time. The first one is in not too long from that. Jimmy Garner picks off a kind of a lazy pass down the middle and immediately gets it to Tierno Barry. Barry gets behind Zubimendi, and Zubimendi's not going to catch Barry. Barry had enough behind him. Now, Barry takes a little bit of a heavy touch here. I agree. But he gets taken down, and there is contact. There's question whether Barry drew the contact. He had his arm on his side as well, too, and that may have affected the first touch. Certainly affected that he went down. But, James, there's contact at his feet here, too. Is this a penalty for you?
I think this is the one where it's a question of he's like just outside the box. Maybe when the contact happens, it's like on the verge. For me, it's a little tricky with Barry because I think he does look a little lightweight in some of these challenges, and it looks like he tends to go down maybe a little bit easier than he needs to.
I think if he a little stronger on that first touch, and
Yeah.
maybe cut inside of him a little bit, I think for sure. Disappointing though. I mean, this was, really the first good look we've had.
Yeah, and it was a great interception, and these are the exact moments you have to capitalize. Lazy pass by the opposition, finally given a chance to actively transition the other way, and it just doesn't really come to anything.
My problem is though, Zubimendi doesn't touch the ball here, not even close.
And I think that's if
So
for no
did he
other
dive
reason,
or not?
that's part of what it comes into it. You have to win the ball. If you don't even make a play on the ball, then I think the referee has to award a foul there.
I also think, to me, I really believe if you're going to be unique in terms of what you do as a league, and you don't think diving is a good thing, and that's fine. There's no reason to think it is a good thing, but you need to start calling some of the diving because there's no issue with anyone trying to flop. I mean, you're going to continue to try and flop no matter what because there's no real punishment for it. I would argue, though, of course, the referee doesn't go to the monitor, even though there's no way he could have seen it from the back. That, by the way, irritates the heck out of me. Why are you taking so long? Just go to the monitor right away. It's your call. And so what happens 5 minutes later? This one, James, long ball from Pick, flick on header from Tark to Barry. Saliba hits it. Ball bounces up. Barry hits it first, easily. Saliba kicks his foot. Clear as day, makes contact. Barry goes down like he's dead. Lots of appeals. Everton players going crazy. Charlie actually rips one after this. It's a little wide, but it's absolutely smoked. And they don't even go to the monitor in this time. Take forever looking at it, et cetera, et cetera. James, is this a penalty?
For me, it has to be. The player doesn't win the ball. He makes contact with the player who does win the ball, and the play kind of ends as a result of it. I think you have to award a penalty there. I understand the hesitancy where everyone's back to goal. It's not really like a goal-scoring opportunity from that contact, but that's not the rule. The rule, it's a foul in the box, clearly, and they don't give it. And they take forever to review it, exactly to what you just said. They take forever to review it, and they don't send the ref to the monitor, and then just the VAR makes the call himself, says, okay, no clear and obvious. Let the referee review his own play and make a decision.
I mean, there was clear contact. We know that.
Clear.
So it's a foul because he was careless. How would that not be careless? I mean, the ball's 3 feet in the air and you kick a guy's foot. Like, I have no doubt that Barry was embellishing his injury.
Sure, yes.
But he's down there because these guys won't look at plays at certain times. So that's not his fault. So there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to card him for embellishment, that's fine. But it's still a foul and it's still in the box. And to me, it's a clear penalty. We've seen it given time and time again. I don't understand why this isn't one. I'm not saying we deserved anything from this match at all, but we score here. It's a totally different game. It's interesting. Right after this one, too, you just had a feeling that eventually Arsenal would get their second. Now, they didn't, but they definitely gave it a couple good shots. I mean, this ball where Rice kind of drags everyone inside and plays it out to Trossard has this lovely curling shot that just plink right off the post. Pretty fortunate for sure. Then both teams sub out center forwards. Thoughts on Tierno Barry again today, James?
I just think he's been isolated in a lot of matches this season. This was no real exception. I thought he battled really hard, but I think especially with Beto coming on and the impact that Beto had, just a totally different level of physicality and ability to cause their center halves problems. No real issue with Barry today. I think he's still really struggling to impact games, but we didn't create very much for him, to be sure. It wasn't a case where he had a glaring miss or anything like that, but just some of his hold-up play, look, it looked decent. He looked okay, but it's not his finest, and Beto, I think, just brought a totally different level of intensity and physicality up front when he came on that I think it made Barry's performance look a little bit worse, even in contrast.
Yeah, and it's probably not fair. I mean, Beto's only coming on for 30 minutes. He's, of course, going to give it a little more gas, and credit to him for doing that. Barry's got a tough matchup here, so I'm not going to give him too much grief about it. Would like to see more, but he's getting literally no service, and you're getting nothing from the right side and not much more from the left from Jack. Play starts again after the subs. Saka plays Odegaard in, drops it back to Zubimendi, hits the post as well. So this one looked a little awkward, didn't look as dangerous, but it was a very good shot, even though he was off balance, and a good sequence. Again, everything coming down that side, really. Subs after this one, I think Moyes waits probably a little long to make these subs. I mean, you're down 1-0. You're not really threatening whatsoever. I have some serious questions about the sub, though, too. Merlin Roll, the Wizard, comes in along with Tyler Dibbling, finally, for Charlie and Dwight McNeil. Yeah, Charlie wasn't great, James.
No, not his best performance. We've talked about it a little bit. He did have 3 shots, which basically more than half of what our team had as a whole. Only one of those was on target. He only had 1 bad touch, but as we alluded to earlier, several giveaways. He was 3 for 5 in passes to the final third. 19 of 24 overall, which actually compared to the rest of the team is not terrible. But some of those just poor giveaways, again, kind of coming at the end of moments where we actually looked like we might be building something, kind of killed our momentum and were rather frustrating. So not Charlie's best day, but you give him a little bit of leeway in a match like this. McNeil, we've talked about a lot as well. Dibbling, I think he just left it too late. I was happy to see Tyler get more minutes than he has been in substitute appearances recently, but it's still not really enough to truly impact the game too much.
Yeah, I mean, Dibbling only got about 6 or 7 chances with the ball. Sorry, it's so bad, but I just feel like Sean's not on today, so that was for you, buddy. I what I hate about this sub is that Charlie's our one attacking midfielder. Yeah. Why the heck you bringing Merlin Roll on to be an attacking midfielder? He's not. He played that way a lot in the Bundesliga, very poorly. That was the whole point. He wanted to get the heck out of there and play deeper, like the way he did with the U21s. We didn't see that at all. I was hoping we'd see James Garner maybe at right back instead, drop Merlin in, leave Charlie on. At least Charlie could score. People said Charlie was awful, and in moments he was, but still he's the only one that generated anything. And he can bang it in from the right, different places. I don't know. What can I say? Merlin did not look good. I heard a lot of people say that he was rusty. I don't think he was necessarily rusty. I just think you're playing him with his back to goal. It's exactly where he didn't play well in the Bundesliga, and I just will never understand why we continue. I don't know if the joke was on the Discord that someone tricked Moyes into thinking this guy's the next Fellaini. Yeah. So that's why he said it was okay to bring him on.
That might be it.
I don't know. He had that flick. He had this flick on header from a Tark free kick that was technically a shot. Martinelli comes on for Trossard. I agree Trossard is looking old, maybe not as old as his hair would indicate, because, man, he's graying pretty quickly, man.
Yeah.
Still a good player. The 86th minute, Saka just blows by Mykolenko, and Keane does very well to come over here. Michael Keane had some moments that drive me crazy, but I thought him and Tark actually were pretty good. Credit to Tarkowski, too, speaking of it. He had our best chance of the match, James, in the 89th.
Yeah, off the giveaway from roll on our own net.
Look, Pick isn't saving this. I mean, yeah, it's the wrong net, James, but
this is it could have been an Olympico, and
so right off the ensuing corner, Pick punches out the Olympico. Like, by the way, you got to have some serious cojones to try an Olympico in the Premier League. Like, I mean, it can happen, but you better get it to the far post. But yes, credit to Tarkowski for our best shot on net, even though it happened on our own net. Yeah, if that had gone in, by the way.
I mean,
it wouldn't have mattered, I guess. Whatever. Just like it doesn't matter if we finish between 9th and 15th. Anyway, second half numbers.
Everton struggled to completing passes. 69% pass completion. We did have the 5 shots, but just the one on target. No corners. 10 touches in the box, which was, again, a slight improvement, but then you look at Arsenal with 28. And it really felt like the penalty, the converted penalty, and then us not getting the penalty, it really was a game of fine margins in that way, but Arsenal hit the post 2 times. So they very easily could have kind of just ended things with slightly better finishing, and Everton struggled to really answer that in any way.
I think we wore down a little bit, too. I think in the second half, we have this little graphic up here. We'll put it up there. But, I mean, Arsenal were like 0 for 2 in dribbles in the first half. Well, in the second half, they were either 4 for 6 or 3 for 7. I don't know. But it was all Saka down the right side against Mykolenko. He dribbled Mykolenko twice, dribbled Keane twice as well. And that's just a tough matchup. And I think once they figured that out, that's when some of the bigger chances happened. Still a little irritated that only 1 foul in the second half for us.
Yeah.
So I know you want to be disciplined against these guys. Maybe that does speak a little bit to their build-up and how good they were. But I think really looking at the full match, just taking a step back, I mean, Arsenal weren't great in attack, and they struggled against our center backs.
Yeah, you have to give both Tark and Keane a lot of credit for how, and we know that this type of setup where we're pinned in a little bit more maybe benefits them. They're not having to defend in space quite as much, but they did their jobs phenomenally well, you have to say. 15 duels against Gyokeres, and Gyokeres only won 1 of those. They also, in recent matches, Tark averaging just over 12 or just under 13 recoveries in the last 5 matches. Keane just over 10, and they had 18 and 16 today, respectively. Doing really well, getting on loose balls, recovering, doing the things they need to do, and they prevented Gyokeres from doing very much. So, all in all, that you have to say it's a solid day.
Yeah, it certainly gives you an opportunity to win. Again, you're aided by the 2 post shots, but those weren't, massive chances. I think Saka's massive chance that Tark cleared off the line maybe was a big one. But, look, there were some good performances. I mean, it's hard to really – you got to take it within reason. This is a very good Arsenal team.
Yeah, it's never Mykolenko's offensive work that he gets credit for, but I thought he did well for the most part for probably the first 60 minutes, 70 minutes on Saka. And then towards the end, Saka really started to kind of crack him open a little bit, got a little bit ugly. But Mykolenko, 3 tackles on the day, 2 clearances. He had 5 recoveries. I think 2 of his 3 tackles were last man tackles. So overall did okay. 4 for 7 in duels overall. Tough going, but again, that's always going to be a tough matchup. We know how good Saka is, and for the most part, Mykolenko shut him down for large stretches of it.
Yeah, and there are a couple of. Michael Keane was solid at times for sure. I think he was 8 for 10 in duels, and Irabunum had 7 tackles. I think 2 interceptions. We got into his numbers before. He was very active, just did nothing really moving the ball forward. I went with James Tarkowski though, and he's had some poor performances. I think this year. This was not one of them. I think him and Keane defend pretty well deeper. I wouldn't say we're all that deep constantly today, but the other thing is. He did pretty well supporting the attack. He was 2 for 3 in crosses. His XA was the highest on the team. So I figured in that rare moment, I know. 3 tackles, 1 interception, 5 clearances, 1 block shot saved off the line, 3 for 7 in long balls. And like I said, him and Keane before, for the most part, took Gyokeres out of the match. Some good listener comments on this one, too. It's varying degrees, the amount of inevitability we have playing against a team like this. And I do think people tend to lose sight a little bit of the competition. You see some awkward comments about some teams when they get dominated by very good teams. It is going to happen sometimes. But this match just had a little more of a different feel for it. And there are those key moments that you kind of wonder if we can come up big with. And when we mentioned set pieces as one of the talking points, certainly our listeners did not fail to deliver at least one comment against those.
Yeah, we have this from Greg with 2 G's at HOD2010, who said, just explain the long throw tactic, please, using one of the tallest players in the Premier League to take them. We talked about it at the top. The long throw is back in a big way in the Premier League, across the league this season. Some teams having some success with it. Doesn't feel like Everton are having a ton of success with it, and we do see Jake O'Brien taking a lot of them for us. I don't read too much more into it other than it's actually kind of rare that these guys are good at throw-ins and throwing the ball far. Jake O'Brien might be one of the few that can get it the farthest, as much as it would be nice to have him maybe in the box on the receiving end of things. It is kind of a skill in itself that not every player has of being able to launch the ball in there. And if you're going to try to basically create set-piece opportunities from throw-ins, you need that long launch. And I don't think, Mikalenko doesn't really have it in him. Certainly like Grealish or Dwight McNeil isn't going to have it in them. So I think you probably just take the guy who you know can throw the ball the farthest and hope that he can launch it in there. But even Jake's long throws are not that good. He doesn't get that much on them.
No, I was a little bit of a long throw specialist, so I laugh at these guys and their pathetic long throws, frankly. But yeah,
it's really awkward when you watch these guys try to do any sort of like athletic thing, throw a ball. Like some of them, it's just not a skill that they ever really learned.
No, and Jake he was a good boxer coming up. There's no doubt he's a good athlete. But yeah, it's like basketball players are some of the best athletes on the planet. The second you try and like hand them a baseball or something, they look utterly ridiculous. It's like I remember trying to teach Leon Osman how to throw the first pitch in Washington, and Leon's a really coordinated guy. And he eventually made it work okay and would have done a better job with it than others. But you look at it and you're like, I think that's one of the things where in America we kind of take for granted because we're so lacking in specialization when we're kids. We just kind of get thrown at everything. But it is what it is. Yeah, it drives me crazy, though. I look at that. I'm like, you can't do any better than that. Yeah. I had kind of the same issue being a tall guy, though, too. It's like, why is the big guy throwing the corner or throwing the throw-in in? And then you throw it, and you're like, oh, well, okay. That makes sense a little bit. But you took me out of the middle now. So I don't know. It is what it is. Did I ever mention the fact that, James, I think we could use a right back upgrade? Did we mention that on this pod?
No, I don't think it's ever been covered. We've never talked about it once.
Well, we should talk about it. Maybe do a whole pod episode on it. But we should also think about, it's not crazy to bring in someone that's got a nice long throw. Weston McKennie's a very good example of American that just can chuck it. So
now we're talking.
It is what it is. You never know. Anyway, okay, I thought this was a pretty good summary of the match as well, too. I don't know if we've ever resolved on how to pronounce ZXYQU's name here, but heavy contributor to the Discord. His comment is funny. It's kind of how I felt. Wasn't a really good watch. Little happened on both sides. One done moment, some bright moments. Horrid final third performance again. On to the next. Played a good team to a draw, -1 dumb play. We move on. And I think that's a healthy way to look at this. Look, the numbers are overwhelming in terms of the chances they got, but one little referee decision can change a whole lot. And it wasn't like they were absolutely crushing us and we were dying in the back like we have in previous years. So it is what it is.
Yeah, fine margins, and they're a very good team. Like a 1-0, it could have easily been 2-3-0. They kept it tight. We have this from Zeke. Game went as expected. Not a bad performance, but there's levels. Questionable lineup with Dwight at right wing, and I think we deserve to see Dibbling starting. Would love to see Roll get more minutes deeper. Grealish tucked inside more than usual, thought it was effective. And then another shout out, the 1878 Tifo was undeniably awesome. Merry Christmas. Ryan, your thoughts on the comment? Yeah, there's levels. It wasn't a bad performance, but you're going to need a lot better than not bad to beat Arsenal.
Merry Christmas. Yes, I agree. The first aspect about it is Dwight versus Dibbling. I think it'd be very hard based on that performance for Moyes to ever take a step back and say, we really need Dwight in there for his defensive acumen. He was chasing shadows today, man. So I'm not saying Tyler Dibbling is the answer, but I'd like to see what he can do. He still looks dangerous on the ball for me and draws players. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we had 2 successful dribbles the entire match. That guy gives us a little bit of that. And look, if 2 guys have got to go out on him every time, like they're going out on Jack, that creates time and space for other people. If they want to go 1v1 on him, I like Tyler's chances there. You only need to win a couple battles to make big chances. We haven't even seen him really get on his left before, too. His left foot is very good in terms of threatening the goal. I want to see it. Yeah, it was interesting, some of the tactical aspects of it, too. Grealish was tucked inside a bit. I don't know if that was more kind of a defensive response at times, and that's where the ball ended up. I kind of wanted to see what happens if you switched him and Charlie, though. I still think that'd be interesting because now Charlie doesn't feel as pressured to kind of... He can feel a little more free to make those forward plays without as much ramification. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some different things we could do, but fundamentally it's a very good Arsenal team. They're very tough to break down. I'm not surprised we didn't create a lot. But I can't see any justification to start Dwight McNeil going forward, James.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to see that either. I was a little bit frustrated with how unimpactful Grealish was. Like, I feel a player like that you bring in.
Is it on him, though?
It's not fully on him, no, but I still think he just holds the ball too long a lot of the time and really kind of kills any momentum we have. And when he makes things happen, it's great. And it's not to say, like, I don't like Jack Grealish, don't come at me. But in games like this is where the exact reason you bring a type of guy like him in to impact games when no one else really seems to be able to.
I think it's a bit of the combination of the personnel. If you recall, when we did our transfer stuff in the summer, I think we were a little surprised that they brought in a young center forward. We thought, if anything, they'd bring someone in that maybe a little bit of a different profile to Beto, someone that could get in the final third if we had the ball a little bit more. If you invest the money in a Dewsbury-Hall, who's a current in his prime player, a Jack Grealish, who's on the tail end of his prime player, you think you're going to want someone to kind of work in with them, and we really didn't get that in Barry. Not saying Barry's not talented. Barry in isolation as a player, I think, is a very intriguing profile, and he has more of an all-around game maybe than Beto. But to your point, if you're going to dwell on the ball a little bit, nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can set up an offense, you can get numbers forward if that were the case, but the complementary players really weren't there to support that. You know, I didn't get to pick, I just want to mention, the quote of the day or the intro quote, but if I were asked to, I would pick this one that I put up here from Bluest.
It's the return of the Everton Happy Sad reversible critter ball soft toy, 17 centimeters to be exact.
Get it right.
Bluest 192 said that whole nasty game was the sad version of the toy. And yeah, that's probably fair to say.
I suggested they should make an angry version of the toy for referees, but and then I hearkened back to my tear apart referee that we got from my dad when I was a little kid, just so he could vent his frustration on the American football referees that seem to make a difference in every game prior to everything being on TV and instant replay when people are just flat out cheating. I mean, we grew up, I swear to God, you're like, no, that was your imagination. No, that's absolutely what happened now. I don't feel so like such a jerk anymore. I think if you were to sum up the match using the proxy of the Everton Happy Sad reversible critter ball soft toy, I would think all 17 centimeters are going to make a sad face today, James.
Yeah, it did feel sad.
It did, but not all is lost. If you look at the table, we are still in 10th. 10 points or 11 points out of relegation. 6 points from Champions League spots. People hate me for this, but the drive for 9th and 15th, I think we're in a pretty good spot for that.
We are in prime position to finish toward the top half of that 9th versus 15th. We may be staring down the barrel of a 9th place finish, Ryan, at this rate. Who knows? We've got a couple more games before the new year. But yeah, I mean, look, in years past, a 1-0 to even an Arsenal would have felt pretty bad.
I'm so relaxed right now.
It is weird to just not be very upset. It's like, okay, they're very good. We're missing some key guys, and we got on the wrong end of a weird hands over the head situation. Otherwise, we're still doing all right. And I think it's going to be an all right rest of the season. I don't feel this impending sense of doom or despair that I felt so often in years past.
And look, I know we're only 6 or 7 points out of Champions League spots. I know, sorry, but it seems fairly far away to do that over time, and I don't think those are realistic goals. If you snuck in Europe, it'd be, I think, a borderline miracle. Maybe not quite, depending on what we do in January. But yeah, I mean, I think the only problem with this one, it kind of has you thinking about what we're going to look like now, missing those 2 key players for Senegal. Sean's not here, but I think a quick thoughts and prayers is okay. For me, the poor Pitt women's volleyball team has made now 5 Final Fours in a row and have lost in all 5 of them, eerily reminiscent of the Buffalo Bills' 4 consecutive trips to the Super Bowl. And Scott Norwood putting a 47-yarder wide right. I feel bad, too, because those Bills teams were actually quite good, especially with Jim Kelly, former Western Pennsylvanian, in at quarterback. Also, thoughts and prayers to the DCL haters. He has once again scored. I believe he scored twice today on long throws. He's scoring some odd goals, but credit to him. I do think, as a team that likes to press, a team that's going to get him in the ball, keep him there in the 18 and going at goal and trying to serve him the ball up there. He could be pretty effective. I hope he stays healthy, and I hope he does really well. I no ill will towards that. I mean, they're paying him 6 figures, man, so I hope he does. And thoughts and prayers, the Rangers haters. I know they lost today against Hearts in a very big matchup. I'm sure they'll try and blame Yusuf Chermiti for that. They've determined he's the worst signing in the history of the club at €6 million. I think they believe that that's a big fee for a player. They also believe that they spent like $35 million net. They actually have a negative net spend this summer. But anyway, he did have a very nice goal at the very end of the match, even though it didn't matter, and they didn't start him. And shockingly enough, they had no beneficial matchup at center forward. So 21 years old, folks. Worst signing of all time declared. Think about that. Like how absolutely, like you'd think our fans are a little bit crazy at times, folks. Consider yourself blessed. Just seeing that tifo alone, though, will convince you and make you realize that Everton have the best darn fans on the planet, if you haven't realized that by now. Did we not get a single score prediction right? That can't be right, James. Did we just get lazy and not look?
I also thought it couldn't be right, and then I went and double-checked, and it is right. A lot of people did predict Arsenal winning, but they thought it would be a bit of a heavier result in their favor. So no correct score predictions this week, but keep getting them in, folks. We're still running the tally. Join our Discord. You can get access to the submission sheet, and we are keeping track week over week throughout the course of the season. So keep throwing them in there, and maybe you'll get one right like I did last week. And it will take time, but we have had a few that people have gotten several right. But now we look ahead, Ryan, to the busy festive period. Maybe not quite as busy as years past, but next up we, of course, look to Burnley. And we've been teasing this for the last few episodes, but AFCON impact for all these teams. Arsenal don't have a lot of AFCON impact, but Burnley certainly do. They will be missing a handful of guys, so I think it's helpful to look at that before we wrap things up.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that any one of these are just amazing players, but they are important players for Burnley, and they do pull some decent minutes. Axel Twanzebe definitely plays some minutes for them. I feel like he hasn't played in a little bit, but he has 8 starts for him, and he has some adaptability as a player. Benson, Manuel Benson's on loan at Swans. He doesn't count. But Lyle Foster's a guy that's playing a lot for him, and so is Hannibal. So, 3 guys, if they're playing any minutes whatsoever, tough. I mean, Foster had like 11 starts coming into this one. I don't know how much they'll miss Hannibal, but he's also kind of one of those players that is just so active. You know what I mean? I mean, he seems like he comes in every game to give them at least some energy. So you take a weapon off the bench, I mean, it's definitely going to help Everton to some extent. Look, we should win this one, James.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. This has to be, we're going to course correct a little bit before we head into the new year. And really the next few matches are all very winnable for Everton. So you're going to have to look to overcome the shortcomings in personnel that we have. Other teams will struggle with it, but we've then got Forest after that and Brentford following. So it's going to be an interesting stretch, but you have to just start off on the right foot against Burnley and get a good result.
Yeah, I think the funny part about Burnley is today off about 0.38 XG against Bournemouth that put up a much higher number and had all the possession. They get a goal in the 90th minute by none other than Armando Broja.
Of course.
So
of course.
You're like, apparently it's an unbelievable header that he just tucked in the corner, but you just got to laugh, but that's fine for us. That's use that good luck and goodwill and don't use it on us, right?
Yeah, I mean, there would really not be much that's more Everton than conceding a last-minute goal to lose by Armando Broja, the player who could barely get off the bench for us, and every time he did, got immediately injured. So we'll do everything we can to put out good vibes and prevent that from happening. But it'll be an interesting one for sure, and we'll, of course, be following it and covering it. So stay tuned for that from the Blue Frontier. Ryan, before we wrap today, any last thoughts, final words?
I want to see Tyler Dibbling, man. I'll just flat out say it. I think Dwight at this point proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defensive acumen isn't a reason to put him in there. It was only a small sample size in terms of set pieces, but don't care. I just want to see Dibbling. I mean, I've said this so many times this year, and I hate to keep echoing it, but for me this season, what's really important is that we're stable, but we also see the young players come in and develop. I'd like to see Merlin as well, too. And if that's a way to get James Garner out at right back, I know he's really important in the central midfield for us right now, but that gets more of the young guys on the pitch, and I think that could be interesting. Maybe you don't want to take too much risk because you want to get a result against Burnley, but I don't think that puts us in a bad position to get a result. My only issue with that is that would likely take Jake O'Brien off the pitch, and he's another young, talented guy that I don't want to see that happen to. And to their credit, Kiernan Tark played pretty well today. My only fear about that is, and a team that you'd like to push up against and you should have the ball a little bit against, I don't think Scott Parker is going to suddenly turn into, prime Pep Barcelona on us. There is risk that you can get beat on the counter, and neither of those guys are good at playing higher. But hopefully Moyes will dial something up a little bit different. I no doubt he learned some things today about his players, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, to me, getting a couple results and getting into January it is critical, because I think one or two players could really make a big difference on this Everton team. I'm not saying pushing for Europe. I'm just saying, really make a big difference in terms of how this team plays, and I think it can help everyone on the team, to be perfectly honest. But in the interim, happy holidays for everyone. I hope everyone really... this can be a tough time of the year for some people, too. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. I know it's a little cold out sometimes. It could be a little isolating, but I encourage everyone to kind of get out there, matriculate. Mingle with some people. Jingle. Right. Bingle. Bingle.
Jingle mingle.
Right. Whatever. I don't care what you do. Just have some fun. Take it easy on the eggnog. See some family. Those can be stressful situations. But, I wish everyone a happy holidays out there. Certainly followers of the pod. And if we didn't say it enough during Thanksgiving, I'm incredibly thankful for our audience. I hope people continue to appreciate what we bring. And we'll try and also, I keep saying this, try and dial up some different content now during the new year, now that I'm not completely swamped watching other football matches. I mean, that could change at a drop of a hat. But right now I've got some breathing room, James, so away we go.
Yeah, excited, coming up on the 1-year anniversary of the Blue Frontier very shortly here. So thank you to everyone who supported us.
How about that?
In the past year. It's certainly flown by, and glad that Everton are in a much better state than they were when we kicked off this show originally. And just echo what Ryan said, happy holidays, everyone. Very interested to see what Moyes does in the next few matches, because I think you could view this period of AFCON as just skate by, just do kind of the most harm reduction possible, try to get as many points. I want him to view it a little more expansively. You see this as the opportunity to get these guys who have been kind of on the fringes more integrated into the squad, so that
other teams are hurt too,
Exactly. So take advantage of that and put Everton into the strongest possible position coming out of AFCON with the most well-rounded, well-integrated squad possible. So I hope to see that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of The Blue Frontier. We appreciate you all very much. One last shout, reminder, please leave us a rating and review, or subscribe to the channel. Find all our social media and Discord stuff in the link in the description. Until next time, happy holidays and up the Toffees.